Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. The Cafe Kubal Studios here with you every single week. And, of course, they're in your community of Central and Upstate New York with their locations inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital, as well as 401 South Salina Street, 324 West Water Street, and on 208 North Townsend Street and 3501 James Street. You can go there today and get yourself the DT Special Pumpkin Spiced Chai with, I do mine with almond milk. You could do yours however you like it, but make sure you get it today with their own flavors made in-house at Cafe Kubal, plus their dark roast coffee and their chocolate chip banana bread, their chocolate chip cookies, their upstate sandwich, their breakfast. They have so much for you, so make sure that you go out and you get that today. And I definitely appreciate everything that they do in our community. Their mobile cafe that will come to you, to your business, and to your neighborhood, as well as the opportunity that they give you with local delivery, which is free of charge for those of you living in Onondaga County. So no delivery charge for that, but you can have it delivered beyond that. So thank you to Cafe Kubal for all that they do. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Up first on today's broadcast, and every single Wednesday, is Julian and I. Appreciate your patience this morning for the midweek Blitz. Julian Whigham of Syracuse Orange Football history, and of course myself, Dan Tortora, here to speak with you today on the happenings of Louisville at Syracuse, as well as the upcoming final home game of the season for Syracuse when they will face off against NC State before their final game of the season, which is at Notre Dame in South Bend. So we'll talk about all of that and more, including making our picks. And hour number 2, as it always is on a Wednesday, we have the Fantasy Football Power, not one of, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub with Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and our joint group on Facebook, Winning Fantasy Football. Mike and I will be discussing the entire Turkey Day week of Fantasy Football Week 12 with 3 games played on Turkey Day. You need to make sure you set that lineup, and we'll get you set and ready to go. So with that being said, let me bring in the man of the hour. That is my guy, Mr. Julian Whigham. Julian, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Doing well, man. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well, brother. And you know what the thing is, and I appreciate this, and maybe we need to make like a 5-minute morning call, is that you and I, we get up on a Wednesday, we talk, we laugh, we have a good time, we have like some insightful conversation, but I feel like we always we give each other that energy, like we pump each other up. So maybe we need like a 5-minute Julian DT call like every morning just to, be like, Julian, what you doing? You know what I mean? Like when I said the thing last week when I was like, man, you wilding out. You're like, what am I doing? I didn't even talk to you today. I was like, man, I know you wilding. I know what you're doing. I just want you to know that I see you seeing me see you, what you're doing. I want you in Miami looking over your shoulder being like, how did that man know what I just did? Like, I want that. So so we need to do that morning call, man.
I don't know what it is, man, but and I love it. It's like just a natural. It's like a morning shot. Like whenever you talk to somebody that you really engage with, and then like we always have a good time. But yeah, no, it's like a morning shot. Every time I hop on the phone and get ready to go. One side may be tired, the other side may be tired. It's just like that look, that quick little quick comment, and boom. Right there. So yeah, man, it's a more. That's why I love doing this with you, man. Because it's a wake up, but 2, it's always a great conversation, and I think that's the best resource for great content. So man, I love doing this with you, Dan. And, it always makes my Wednesday mornings a little bit better. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and the thing is, man, I'm going to have to keep you around because we all know up here in Central New York, this season going to end real quick. So, I can see it around the corner, which is tough, man. It's tough.
This season has been difficult, to say the least, man. Difficult, to say the least. But we have been trudging through this thing and, squeezing every bit of it out of it that we can.
Yeah, and what the thing is, though, that I'm really happy about and I'm really excited about is that Syracuse, no matter what people want to say about this, that, and the other, and listen, it's been tough. and we've talked about it on the show. We've talked about some really serious points. We've, joked around about some stuff. We've talked about the good, the bad, and I don't want to call it the bad, but the good, the places to work on, and so on and so forth. But one thing that I really cherish and hold on to is, A, these players have stayed healthy, and the coaches, from all that we know. B, they've played all their games. And C, they got to open the Dome that they were renovating and working on. And I got to be there. I mean, the Dome's only opened twice in history. It opened in December 1980. Good morning to Alan. Good morning to Mama. What's up? But when I look at this, they've only opened twice. They opened December 1980, and they opened September 26th, 2020. And I was there for this September 26th reopening of the Dome. There was maybe 40 of us that didn't work for Syracuse there, and I'm kind of highballing it on that one. So to be a part of such a small group, to be a part of it at all is amazing. To be a part of a small group like that is even more amazing. To be a part of the fact that they've been able to play, and I've stayed healthy. As far as I know, the rest of the media stayed healthy, thank God. The players and the coaches and the staff have stayed healthy. So, and if anything's happened, they've been quarantined. Some of Syracuse's athletic communications staff came down with it, so they had to be quarantined, but we're always on Zoom calls anyway. So, it's a really awesome thing to see, above all, win, lose, or draw, that this team has actually gotten their games off, kicked their games off, and they're one of the few teams in the nation that have played every single one of their games with only 2 to go.
Yeah, I think Syracuse, one, to the point about being insane, I think that's actually really amazing. To be a part of that is, I'm kind of jealous. I wish I was there for that. But two, yeah, I think that this year has been a unique challenge to Syracuse, but in a lot of good ways. For the most part, obviously on the field, things haven't gone the way we'd like them to. But in the grand scheme of things, though, I think that this low point in terms of how Syracuse is losing, how they've been uniquely bad this year. I'm hoping that this requires both people in the administration and guys on the staff to reevaluate the way they go about this year. I think it was really interesting, personally, just to see the mindset of the team. I actually got a chance to read back a few of the comments from a few guys last night, and I think a few misspoke, talking about these games don't count. We're just trying to get the reps in, yada yada. But it was really interesting to see what this team is thinking about, and I'm hoping that in the grand scheme that Syracuse University as a football program, as an athletic department, figure this thing out, because they've got a lot of good things going from them. You mentioned the new dome and how Syracuse is trying to build this thing up, but it's just a matter of putting this thing together and then IDing what holds this program back. And I think once that's figured out, Syracuse will come back to a really good place, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and that's the hope, is that Syracuse can find their way to something positive and something promising for the future. These guys have a lot of things to think about and things to go over, and guys like Josh Black that get a free year, he has to think about what he's going to do with that free year. Chris Elmore has to figure out what he wants to do with this. If you were on this team, Julian, and the stock for the NFL for you at this point, being on this team and all these struggles, I mean, this is kind of the catch-22, and you went through, obviously trying to get into the NFL and had some workouts and whatnot. So if you're a player who's spent 4 or 5 years at Syracuse, you're a senior, you're a redshirt senior, and you have a season like this where there's not a lot of great stuff to put on film, what do you do? What would be your advice to these guys where it's like, well, if they come back, they could get hurt. If they come back, the team could be just as bad again, and their stock couldn't rise. But then, it's the side of like, if they come back, it could work out against them. But then if they go, is there enough film on a team where there's been some success, especially on defense, but the overall look at Syracuse has not been positive? What advice do you give to these players that are trying to figure out if they stay or they go?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and it goes to layers. So I put the agent hat on here. If you're a cat who has tape out there already, listen. I came out. I had good tape. I had some bad. I knew what my issues were, right?
Yeah.
And from what I had gotten from my agent, the feedback was, dude, like, you have everything that an NFL scouts wants to see. You just have to, really show someone pro that they can work with, and we'll figure it out, right? So if you're a cat like Josh Black, I think he's got good tape out there. The thing is, I can't think of a game. That's the one thing with him. And if I was his agent, I'd present it. I can't go back to one game, and maybe he could and point me to it as your agent or whatnot. But I can't go back to one game and say he dominated that week. Where you see all of his traits out there, and a scout can then say, we think we can get that out of him. Because when you're coming out of college, and you're not thought of as a top 3-round pick, 4-round pick, you're trying to sell your skills and what scouts think that they can do with you, right? If you really look at guys who are picked in the 5th through 7th round, they're typically based on characteristics, especially at corner, right? So it's specific to position too. But guys like Josh Black, he doesn't have that game where you really see everything, right? And on top of that, he's not. I feel like I'm almost laying into him, but just honest conversation, he's not like that big cat. He's like doesn't have the frame that makes me say, "Oh, NFL guy," either, right? So if I'm his scout or his agent, I'm weighing his what his academic pursuits are, what his what he'd like to do after football. Weigh that, because I think for a guy like Josh Black, another season for him would be good. I think it's valuable to his team because they don't have many defensive linemen. I think it's valuable to him because there aren't many. Because I think there's still room for him to show something, depending on his age too. I'm not sure if he's a young senior or older. So I was a young senior. That's something you want to think about. But at the same time, if you were a more established guy, outside of Syracuse and whatnot, I would say in these kind of situations, especially if they got young guys that you could tell the coaches like, move on, take a shot and focus on what you can do during pro day, because I think the NFL season next year is going to be a little more normal, 17 weeks, 1 bye week, where they actually have, everything set up in a normal landscape. And, if you're a guy who thinks they can fit into that with a good pro day, I say go. But Josh Black specifically, I think he's a guy I'd like to see stay, because Syracuse's defensive line is already, not that great, right? And I think they're going to end up pushing guys out. But I don't see Josh Black being a guy like that. But I would like to see him be somebody who stays the extra year, go ahead and get the Masters, whatever it is, the NBA, whatnot. It's just going to help you later. But Syracuse is in a spot where they can use you, and you can benefit from a year where you just dominate. It doesn't need to be all season. That's a selfish part. It doesn't even need to be all season. But dominate where scouts can see what you can do, because I don't think you showed that this year. And, you can take off. The other side of that, if you're winning NFL, because he's got another year, do you think that system is helping you? Right? If you're in a 3-3-5, do you see yourself as one of the down linemen in the NFL in a 3-tech? That he may say no, and may think, I'm better off on a 4-3 team on the edge, or maybe I'm better off as a tackle, on a 4-3 defense. If that's the case, go somewhere in college, transfer to show those things. So that's how you have to weigh those, knowing yourself, knowing your skill set, knowing how you fit and where you want to go. Because if I was a corner, coming out, and I thought I was a man defense corner, I thought I was a press cover corner, but we were playing cover 2 and playing in a bunch of zone, and I'm not good in zone, it may be beneficial to someone like a corner to leave. Whereas if you're in a system where you are playing man, you think you'd be good, you'd stay. So for Josh Black as a defensive tackle, I think the thing for him is find the right fit, knowing if that's a fit for him. If it is, go ahead and stay. Syracuse can value. If not, go ahead and leave. But I think Josh Black is one of those guys who would benefit from another year in college to try to give himself a chance in the NFL. Listen, real life can happen for your young 20s. Real life, you have plenty of time to figure that part out. but football, that's something that you can only do for so long. So
Yeah.
I would encourage him to do it and play as long as he can.
Yeah, and speaking here with Julian Whigham inside of Midweek Blitz that we bring you every Wednesday in hour number 1 of Wake Up Call inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. That you said a lot in there, Julian, and I appreciate it. There's a lot of different angles and a lot of different pieces, and I like the information that you gave, and I hope that Josh Black was listening, or that he will. Josh and I have known each other the entire time he's been at Syracuse, and I think even before. So, I've been very honored to have him around, at least for the last 5 years, and I appreciate him and respect the heck out of him. So, looking at something like that, I mean, you brought up the fact of, he can come back and he can show some more, and in his specific case, you think that he should. But where I'm seeing an issue and where I'm having that, dilemma is that, Syracuse is my hometown. This is where I was born and raised. This is where I built my company. I've been watching Syracuse football since I was born. Literally. I mean, my dad and my mom had an SU sweatshirt on me when I was 1. So, I mean, I'm used to, watching this team and seeing this team, and to me, it's not a football team. It's a team that represents my city. It's not just a football team. It's the football team that's representing Syracuse to the rest of the world for me. And so there's that side. There's growing up with it, being connected to it, knowing what orange and blue means. And then there's the other side where I care about these guys. I want them to go to the NFL. I want them to get drafted. I want them to have a future. I want them to live their dreams out and, do what they want to do. And so with Josh or with any defensive lineman, if it's going to behoove them to be in a 4-3 and Syracuse isn't going to run it, that's where the issue comes in of, if Josh called me up today and said, Dan, what should I do? I'm sitting here thinking, well, this is my hometown, but above all things, and I want people to know this, I will always want the best for each individual, and I will support that. I mean, I told Lamar Dawson when he was being recruited, I said, dude, I got your back. I'm here no matter what, and he was not coming to Syracuse. He wasn't. Him and I laughed about it. I was in the Detroit. I did an interview with him while I was in a layover in Detroit at the airport. And I remember sitting there, I think I was at a Five Guys or something like that, and I was sitting there talking to him on the phone. And we were just kind of laughing about it because he wasn't coming to Syracuse. And I told him, I was like, dude, I was going to support you no matter what. And he's like, yeah, you've been here the whole time. And he's like, isn't it funny that I'm ending up there? But it was this thing of if you go to Louisville, if you go to Rutgers, wherever you go, I got your back because I care about the individual. And I think what I'm seeing now is with a guy like Josh, if a 3.35 is going to continue to make him look like, not showcase his talents, and he wants to play in the NFL, then you can't be selfish and be like, no, you have to stay here because the team needs you more than you need the team. And I think that that's a thing that each guy has to look at is am I staying here because the team really, really needs me? Or am I staying here because I want to be? You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to tell people to be individualistic and be selfish. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, Josh Black coming back to Syracuse only helps Syracuse. But who's out there to help Josh? And Josh has to make sure he's helping himself ultimately if he feels that tape here and this scheme and this defense and this situation is going to benefit him, because more than anything else, I want Josh Black to be happy. I want Andre Sisco to be happy. I want Joe Williams to be happy. I want Afatu Melifonwu and Abdul Adams and Jarvion Howard and Tommy DeVito and Rex Culpepper and Jacoby and Morgan and Nolan Cooney and on and on and on. I care about each one of these guys living out their dreams, and I'm not going to stand in front of that.
Yeah, and I think that's, the side, the way to think about this, especially for I'm thinking really individual at this point, because I think Josh Black is 6'2", what is he, 6'3", 4? I think it's a 6'3" D lineman, right? And that's what you have to think about these things, and that's where you're honest about yourself, honest about who and what you are as a football player. Yeah. Right, and then know where you've been successful. Because the beauty of Syracuse is that he's been in a few schemes now too. They were in a 4-3 defense before, so now you know, like, oh, is this what kind of fit I want to be in? He's played a long defensive line because they've had to rotate guys. Is this my best position? Like, just knowing what your best position is. Here's a story. Just talking about going to the NFL and knowing where you are. When I was coming out, and after I was with Buffalo, I signed with Buffalo in March 2016. I was with them into the summer, got cut, and I did a few workouts with a bunch of teams, and I eventually did one with the Patriots during the summer, right? And I get in, and I'm all excited because I've been working out. I was with this training program in Tampa. They were, doing a whole bunch of stuff for my body. So I felt strong. I was fast. I was just at peak shape, right? Best shape of my life. And I'm like, say regular height, 6'1", about 204, 203, a little under 205, right? Yeah. I get there, and these guys, it's Coach Belichick's son, right? Yeah. And he's like, dude, you're bigger. You're bigger than we thought you were. That's good. And I'm like, yeah, well, thank you. And he says, we're going to work you out at safety. We've been scouting you for a couple of years, and we thought you were a safety. And I'm like, dang, I wish I knew that coming out, and they told me why. They knew how about this? They knew my shoe size. They knew my shoe size, being at 13. They knew, in high school I played safety, and they knew, and they were like, just based on your skill set and what you did, like, we saw you play a little bit, so we thought your skill set just fit better in the NFL at safety. And I'm like, dang, if the Patriots are saying we think you're a safety, chances are
yeah, you're a safety.
I'm a safety, right? So, but I'm just like, dang, like, how did I miss this? I had an idea, but I was like, dang, how did I miss this? This may have given me more value coming out as a prospect. But and so this is the lesson I take from that to apply to younger guys, is just really know your skill set. Because if you do, and you come out and you say, hey, I think I'm a better fit for this spot and this position, coaches and scouts, they love playing with guys. They love trying to build that next guy. So if you're a guy like Josh Blacker, you're just a cat that's at Syracuse right now, whether you're undersized or whatever the case may be. It's important to just know where you fit as a defensive player, offensive side too, and knowing, okay, is this system the best spot for me, right? And when you're honest with yourself and you have that conversation, I think it clarifies whether or not you're somebody that should either stay or go. And, Josh Black, he's someone I think should stay. If I'm Iffy Melifonwu, I think you go. I actually dead think you should declare if you're Iffy Melifonwu. If you've been in the second, the only guy I think that can is the young cat, right, 14. But if he can go, I say he should. I think he's like a redshirt junior. He's someone I would say get gone now, because I don't know what Syracuse is going to do. And that's the other side of it. Syracuse is going to lose a lot of games next year. Maybe it is best for you to go if you're a senior and trying to give yourself that better opportunity. But it's a matter of where you can go, and it's an individual decision for every guy. But if you're a guy like Josh Black, I think it's better to stay based on your position and what you do, your skill set. But if you're a guy like Iffy Melifonwu on this team, I say you declare. I say you go and see what happens, because you never know, and it's just a matter of where you fit on the team and what you've done in the past.
That coming from Julian Whigham, my co-host every Wednesday inside of the Cafe Kubal studios here with the midweek Blitz, bringing that to you every single Wednesday in the 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. hour, and we appreciate Julian being here every single week and dedicating some time to us. You were right about Josh Black, 6'3", 280 is what he was going into the season. And then, we look at Iffy and where Iffy's at right now, and you mentioned him. He is a redshirt junior, so he has been at Syracuse a little bit longer. And it's funny because my grandfather's number and my number show up together. So my number's 21, his number's 13, my Pop Cavino. And so it shows up as 213. And Ifeatu Melifonwu that you just brought up, that's his weight. So I find that to be so maybe that's my grandfather going, yeah, bet on Iffy. Like, you know what I mean? That might be that feel. He might be saying bet on Iffy right now. But Ifeatu Melifonwu, definitely a talent at Syracuse. A lot of talent at Syracuse that could be getting some looks. And that's the thing, is that even on Syracuse's worst teams of the past, they were getting into the NFL and they were getting drafted high. And so the question is, why is that not happening now with, the talent that these guys possess? And I hope that doesn't happen to Trill. I hope it doesn't happen to Andre, because they are good. And, I think if Trill was on, a Florida right now, people would be going, oh my God, Trill Williams. I mean, it was the same thing that happened with De'Aaron King, but in a different way, because Houston's a lot better of a program than Syracuse is right now. But when De'Aaron King was in Houston, people, because the cool thing to do was to not think the American had talent, which I know is wrong because I've covered them since before they even had a name and a logo. And so I knew who De'Aaron King was. And I could tell people about De'Aaron King, and they go, yeah, Dan, American Athletic. Now he's the Miami quarterback. Oh, yo, De'Aaron King, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I don't want that to happen to Cisco. I don't want them to be like, yo, if he went to Ohio State, he would have been a first round. It's like, no, that's BS. The man led the nation in interceptions, okay? He led all Power 5. He led the entire country, 130 Division 1A FBS schools in interceptions for active players. He had 13 before he, made the move to go to the NFL. So I give this man a lot of credit. And, one thing that I will definitely say that I really appreciate, when Dino threw shade this one time, I asked him a question about Cisco. And it was after the first game against North Carolina, and I asked him about Andre Cisco and leading the nation in interceptions and this and that, and he goes, Andre Cisco? And I said, yeah. He goes, you mean the guy that was left off of the All ACC first team, the guy that was good enough to be whatever it was that he was voted for, but he's like, it was good enough to be this, but he wasn't on the All-ACC first team. The guy that, everybody has in their cabinet, everyone's got an Andre Cisco, right? He's like, right, that's that. And he looked at the camera and he just stared at it intently. How could you guys not see the talent that Cisco is? You don't even vote him into the All-ACC team. Mind you, I did. But, it's because I know what I'm looking at, and he's leading the nation in interceptions. But that day when Dino threw shade and he looked out to the world and was like, oh yeah, Andre Cisco, yeah, he's a dime a dozen. Everybody's got one, right? No reason to give him any credit. I was like, dang, Dino, I love it. But then he stared at the camera, stared at me, stared at him, and I was like, dude, I voted for him. So don't be looking at me like that. That's a you and me having a drink going, man, Andre Cisco didn't get no respect. But yeah, I love that he threw shade on that. Because it's so true. Cisco would have been talented at Chattanooga. It doesn't matter where he went. He would have been good anywhere. Citadel, call him up. He would have been a talent. So I hope the NFL knows that he's a first-round talent, and I hope they treat him as such. And just in case anybody needs to know, Jacksonville, you could draft Andre Cisco because you need some help on the defense and the offense and the special teams.
It's like that side of the ball. The Cisco thing, and when it comes to the NFL, and it's interesting because Syracuse, I think in recent years, Zaire Franklin is really the only name that's really coming to mind. But Syracuse has been in this weird spot where they produce guys, but they've just been either undersized or they didn't fit their position. I think that really hurt their draft stock because the NFL is such a their scouts they put their pointer finger to their nose and start to tilt their neck back and they're just one of those guys. That's just how the NFL is. They have to be a certain height, a certain weight, or a certain they have these prototypes. Yeah. And if you fit into that prototype, you can actually get bumped up. We see guys get drafted higher than they should all the time because they have the size or the strength or the pro day numbers. The NFL overdrafts those guys, but will discount guys, football players. Guys who may not be as big but can play. I think like an example, Antoine Cord didn't draft or anything, but he was one of the best football players Syracuse ever had, and he was 5'7", right? You knew he's probably going to play in Canada if he wanted to keep playing. But that's the NFL. It's just you got to fit in that. And I think that's what's hurt, those guys getting a chance in those first 3 rounds is producing just undersized player. And then Zaire, may still be mad at me for saying short, might not make it. But that's the reality of the situation. If he was 6'3", he would have been, first 2-3 round picks. For guys coming out now, Cisco, Melifonwu when he does, Trill Williams. Trill, I think he's someone who's like that tweener spot. But those kind of guys, especially the defensive back position, those guys, they have production behind them at Syracuse. They've got the size. Cisco, if he hadn't had the injury, I genuinely believe he would have been a first to early second round pick. He just does the most valuable thing that a safety does, and that's take the ball away.
Yeah.
Like, people get on him about tackling, but in the NFL, I've heard multiple people say, we don't pay you to tackle. We pay you to take the ball away and cover. And he's one of the best cover guys you can find. So Cisco and those guys, Meliphone when he comes out, those guys are going to get drafted, where they should. Cisco with the injury, that was unfortunate. But, those cats, man, they're going to – I think that Syracuse, in terms of like just the guys they put out, we're going to start to see a little more guys coming out, getting drafted a little bit. And I think that elevates the brand of Syracuse to recruits as well. It may be more towards DBs, which I'm not getting mad about. But, having those guys get picked in those early rounds when young cats are still – no one watches the end of the draft. They just don't. Not football players. But, if you're someone who's getting picked in those early rounds and you're seeing Syracuse up there, you're like, oh, if I go there, I can – so – I think those guys coming out and, putting Syracuse up there a little bit will be good for the program. But, just in terms of guys coming out now, I think that they're starting to show a little bit more of the size and strength that the NFL is looking for in terms of drafting high. So I think that trend will change come, March 2021 when the NFL draft comes on. So we will see, man. But it's unfortunate that they wasted so much talent, both in the secondary and other positions where guys have been really, really good for them.
Yeah, they've been amazing. They've been incredible. You just need to have a team. What was said to me before is nobody wants to recruit a losing team. So, you got to think about scouts in that respect. And, they're not giving Syracuse a chance, which is rough on these guys. And again, it comes down to, is it right for them to stay here if they want to get the looks and this, that, and whatever? And you can't knock them for it because of, the fact that if they want to go to the NFL and they're on a 1-win team, a 4-win team, a 3-win team, yeah, there's a good chance that there are scouts that aren't going to want to come see that. So, that's the rough part of it, because you could be doing your job, but if the coaches aren't doing their job and the players as a whole aren't getting it done, then you kind of get lost in the sea sometimes. I think Cisco is one of the enigmas where he's not getting lost in the sea, and arguably Trill and, and Iffy and guys like that too, but, you don't want to be in a situation where you could be. We're going to take a step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. With that being said, here in the midweek blitz with my guy Julian Whigham, we'll be back inside of the Cafe Kubal studios right after this to discuss Syracuse debacle against Louisville. We talked about the history at Louisville as ACC foes. Well, it only got worse in this game. And then we'll talk about their upcoming game against NC State, make our picks for the week. That's Julian Whigham and myself, Dan Tortora, here inside of the midweek blitz. Every single Wednesday in hour number 1 on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code AVS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavicolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avicoli's, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter right around the corner.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecabal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you download their app, and you'll have their entire menu at your fingertips in a very, very user-friendly app there on the Google Play or Apple App Store, with all of their salads, their sandwiches, their brick oven pizzas, as well as their desserts, their homemade breads, quinoa bowls, rice bowls, and more. They continue to create and continue to ignite our taste buds at the Millhouse Market with contactless pay on the app, an easy-to-use app itself, and a drive-up window to pick up your food, grab, and go. They help to keep us safe, keep us efficient, and give us those fantastic flavors every single week. From Tuesday through Sunday, make your way over to the Millhouse Market. Whether it's a mile or 30 miles away, they are absolutely, positively worth the drive every single time. With that being said, we're back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Cafe Kubal there for you in our community with their mobile cafe that will come to your place of business or your community itself. They'll come right to your neighborhood. You can find out more information by going to wakeupcalldt.com, clicking on the Central New York tab, and under that, Cafe Kubal. Once you do that, there is a button to click for the mobile cafe form to fill out to have them come to you. And there's also a button to order locally for local delivery, which is free of delivery charge for those of you in Onondaga County. And, of course, they have their 5 locations. They're inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, and 208 North Townsend Street in the Holly Green Cafe. In every single one of those locations, for mobile pickup as well as walk-up order, they have the DT Special Pumpkin Spice Chai. And I keep talking about going and grabbing one, and it's Wednesday. I got to do it this week. I got to get some pumpkin before the Thanksgiving. I got to make it happen. I might get 2, because Julian wants one, so I might drink one for him. You know what I mean? One for me, one for my homies. I think that's what they say, Julian. So we might have to do that. But we're here with Cafe Kubal every single week, and we appreciate them so very much. Thank you to Matt Goddard and the team. Folks, when it comes to your dreams and your aspirations, Matt Goddard started making coffee in his parents' basement, and now he has one of the most successful, prominent companies in Central and Upstate New York. So when you believe in yourself, incredible things do, not can, do happen. With that being said, we're inside of the midweek blitz with Julian Whigham, Syracuse Orange cornerback alum. We have to talk about what was and what will, what can be as we look at this week and last week, what happened and what we are looking forward to. So Julian, Louisville playing against Syracuse since Louisville joined the ACC in 2014 and became an ACC conference opponent of Syracuse. Not talking about anything before, just 2014 to now as ACC foes. Syracuse has only defeated Louisville one time, never on the road. Going into the game this past weekend, they were 0-3. They allowed 40-plus points in each of those games. They lost by double digits. This game, they lost again. They're 0-4 against Louisville on the road as ACC foes, but they did not allow 40 points. But here's the issue. They didn't allow 40-plus, but they lost by their biggest margin of any of those four games, 30-0. None of it looked good. They amounted 137 total yards, I think, as a team, not as one running back or quarterback. Everything looked bad. Their time of possession, which has been atrocious this season, was 18 minutes and some change in this game out of 60. Their third down efficiency was 1 of 10. There's not a lot to write home about in a 30-0 loss. But normally you could say, well, they did this and they did this and maybe they did a little bit of that. They didn't do a whole lot of nothing in this game. And this was a tough one for people to watch, as you hope as the season progresses that your team progresses. And this game looked like a regression of sorts.
Yeah, so the issue, this is a win for Louisville, right? I thought this entire game was a win for Louisville. One, because first, people should understand that the more tape that you get on a freshman, the easier and easier he becomes to defend. On last week's show, you asked Julian, how would you scout Jacoby and Morgan, right? What would you tell him? What would you look out for your defense? All those things, right? Well, their defense, Louisville's defense coordinator actually did those things. And the first thing was to understand, in the week prior, he was seeing blitz and getting blitz. And we were praising him as a media for, Jacoby Morgan, he saw the blitz, he moved outside of the pocket, he used his legs to look downfield, made a few throws, looked pretty good, right? And then, this following week, Louisville said, you know what? All right, well, what's your next step in the progression? Let's show you some pressure, but we're not going to actually bring it. We'll just drop back. And there were a number of different times, particularly on third down, where they would show pressure, where in the week before, it would actually come and he'd just move and, try to make a play. This week, they dropped him into coverage. And when that happened, Jacoby Moore, he just did not know where to go with the football. Typically tried to eat it and just went down. That's where the sacks happen. That's where incompletions happen. And that explains third down inefficiency to me. On the other side of that, I think as an offense as a whole, because of the tape that's out there on Jacoby Morgan, he's become incredibly easy to defend. From what I've seen, he makes one read and he's done. He does the same thing as Dungy at quarterback, I think, where it's I'm going to look at my 1 and 2 on one side, and if it's not there, I'm going to take off. But unfortunately, the takeoff part isn't quite where Dungy's level was, and then he's not able to escape. So Dungy was a quarterback who could run. Morgan's someone who kind of uses legs to move around in the pocket. I don't think he's an actual scrambling quarterback, right? So I think that's why Syracuse's offense was so frustrated last week. Louisville was able to change up their defense on third down, which made it difficult to move the ball. And then on the first 2 downs, I think they just did a great job of either A, stuffing the run, or B, shutting down the side of the ball that Syracuse is trying to throw to, and that just made things difficult for Syracuse's offense. On the side of that, I think they made some plays. They ran up twice as many offensive plays as Syracuse did. And that runs the defense down. Giving up 30 points, I think the beginning quarters, things were slow. But, when you're constantly on the field and it feels like you just sat down and then, boom, you're right back up again after a 3 and out, that's tiring. That's why it almost makes the game harder than practice. Because typically when you come off of practice, second team's getting 4 or 5 reps versus 3, and then you're right back out there, stay a punt. But lots of guys play punt, return, punt on the punt team, yada, yada. So it's difficult. And, I think that's why we saw that 30-0 score. So, it's a season. They're just trying to get through it because every component of this offense, whether it's quarterback, offensive line, receiver, it's just not where it should be. And that's why we're seeing the offensive performance that we are.
Yeah, and it's really tough to see. If you look at Syracuse's total plays on offense against Louisville, it was 41. Louisville ran the ball 45 times. So they ran the ball more than Syracuse's entire offensive plays. We look at the attempts, 16 attempts passing, 25 attempts rushing. 41 total attempts on offense in 60 potential minutes of play. And Louisville outdid that on the ground. So there's not a lot to talk about with this Louisville game, except for Louisville, yeah, Malik Cunningham, Juwan Pass got to get out there, Jalen Mitchell got in the end zone, Maurice Berkeley was doing his thing, Des Fitzpatrick, Braden Smith, but for Syracuse, it's a whole bunch of nothing. It was quiet. So the only thing that looked good, and this is like me talking, okay, there are so many parallels between Syracuse and Jacksonville for all the wrong reasons this season, it's not even funny. And same record, you know what I mean? And then you look at James Robinson, right? I have him on my fantasy football team. No matter what Jacksonville does, James Robinson gets me points. He gets close to 100 yards, over 100 yards, gets a touchdown, gets a couple touchdowns. Sean Tucker is that guy for Syracuse. He's the James Robinson. He had 93 yards in this game, 16 carries, 93 yards, 5.8 yards a carry. He has been the one bright spot that this team's been able to lead their hat on consistently. If I watch, and the thing is, the way he runs, and granted, at the end of the game, and this and that, and they're not really trying to attack, but, when I look at Sean Tucker in the future, I look at this true freshman running back, and I say to myself, thank goodness that Syracuse has Sean Tucker. Thank goodness they have Mikel Jones. Thank goodness they have Iffy. Thank goodness they've had Cisco and Trail and Josh Black, because there are those bright spots and those bright moments. Nolan Cooney. If you want to be a punter to go to the NFL, play at Syracuse because they're punting more than they're running offensive plays. So, you're going to get a lot of film out there. And, I joke, but I'm also serious because Cooney's getting a ton of looks. And before Cooney, Riley Dixon, before, Rob Long and whatnot. So Syracuse on special teams gets a lot of looks because, unfortunately, they have to be out there a lot. But we look ahead to the game that they have against NC State now as I'm here inside of the midweek Blitz with my guy Julian Whigham here in Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single Wednesday, bringing you the midweek Blitz inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. NC State is the next one on the docket. NC State is 6-3. I don't know why Dave Doran doesn't get the credit he deserves sometimes. It drives me nuts because he's a good coach and he sends guys to the NFL and he wins and they're already bowl eligible yet again. So they're 6-3. They're 5-3 inside of the ACC. They're 6-3 with a win over Liberty. They barely got out of Liberty alive. Here's the thing about Liberty. Liberty is a good team. They are a good team. Now, Syracuse, when you see them on the schedule, yeah, they're supposed to beat a Liberty, right? So is NC State and Virginia Tech. Here's the thing. Hugh Freeze, when he came in and there's that and people are like, man, Hugh Freeze took the job. Hugh Freeze? And you hear that name coming up that's now extended through 2026. And we'll see if that happens because we know contracts for coaches in college football mean absolutely nothing. But Hugh Freeze is there at Liberty right now. He never had a win against an ACC opponent, or Liberty never had a win against an ACC opponent ever. The school, Liberty University, never once in their history had defeated an ACC school. They go to Syracuse and they get their first win ever historically, and it was on the road. Then they go to Virginia Tech, and they get a second win in the same season after never doing it. Now they do it twice in one season. They defeat Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, and that's an in-state game because Liberty plays they play in Lynchburg, Virginia. Then they play NC State, and NC State gets out of it alive 15-14 because they block a field goal attempt. So you look at this and say to yourself, Liberty almost took down a trifecta of ACC schools, including the one that's coming into town to play Syracuse. So before we talk about NC State, can we please make mention and give appreciation, Julian, to the fact that Liberty did something that they had never done in their history, not once, but twice, and almost 3 times, if not for a blocked field goal.
Yeah, it makes me feel better about Syracuse's loss in Liberty. I mean, that's one thing. Because one, we were all kind of comparing it to the loss to Akron a few years ago, but it doesn't seem to be that way at all. This Liberty team is much better than that Akron team was, and they're playing really well. You know, and you're right. Outside of the blocked field goal, they would have beaten the third ACC team, and I think they're playing well. Liberty's a good football team, and they're a very good football team. What Hugh Freeze has done in such a short amount of time is, nothing short of incredible. So, hats off to them. One, two, NC State, they played them close, and I think Liberty was the better team. To be honest, I think they're the better team on the field. If not for the block kick, which I think was an operational issue. I mean, if you like kickers, typically when you're, between the snapper, holder, and kicker, you want your operation time, between the snap, the hold, the kick, to be under, I think it was 2.8 operation time. And that looked much longer than 3 seconds when the kick was actually blocked. Used to be a holder in high school. It's the only reason I know these things. But, because of the operation time, they ended up getting blocked. But, I think that Liberty was a better football team that week. I think they're a better football team than NC State. They played well. They have a great team. But, when it comes to what they've done this year, it makes me feel a lot better about that loss Syracuse took a few weeks back, because Liberty's a good team. So when with NC State coming in, the good thing about that is you've seen the tape, like where the weaknesses are, especially in a recent, when a team's coming off of when they've strung a few wins together, you're hesitant to use similar game plans as those other defenses. But now that you got a game plan where you held them to a limited amount of points, and they've also got tape on it. I think a recent tape. I think that's good for Syracuse coming in this game against NC State, because Liberty's done a good job, and I think Syracuse should emulate that game plan as best they can.
Yeah, and we look at NC State coming into this matchup against Syracuse. Syracuse's final home game of the season and second to last game of their season this season, because there will not be a postseason for Syracuse. NC State defeated Wake Forest, who defeated Syracuse. They defeated Pittsburgh on the road, who defeated Syracuse. They defeated Duke, who defeated Syracuse. They defeated Liberty, who defeated Syracuse. They did lose to North Carolina in common opponents at North Carolina. Syracuse lost there as well. But NC State, they're a dangerous team. And the thing that I think people need to pay attention to as well is they're like, wow, they only scored 15 against Liberty. Here's the thing. They scored 45 against Wake, 24 against Virginia Tech, 30 against Pittsburgh, 38 against Virginia, 31 against Duke, and then they had 21 against North Carolina, 41 against Miami, 38 against FSU. So more often than not, they're scoring. If you think that this team can't score 30 to 40, you're not paying attention. So, but NC State has knocked on the door of beating Clemson, a couple years in a row. So, this NC State team, even though the personnel changes from year to year, Dave Doran knows how to coach. He knows how to recruit. He knows how to find guys in high school that are not only going to be good at NC State, but they're going to be good in the NFL. So this is not a game for you to look at and go, NC State's only going to score 20. We can beat that. NC State can score 40. If they want to, they can get there. Liberty did a fantastic job against them. And that's just the reality. Liberty has looked really good. Liberty's looked better than some other ACC schools in holding a team down. So, I would tell people to not think that NC State is in this zone of they're not going to be able to score offensively. I think if Syracuse thinks that, they'll be in for a rude awakening. But Bailey Hockman, we look at what he can do. Zonovan Knight, Jordan Houston, Ricky Person Jr., a lot of different guys running the ball. And, I think they're going to, we're going to see another team that's going to try and ground and pound it and condense the clock on Syracuse. That's the MO that works the best against the Orange. And, really, honestly, the only thing that's going to get Syracuse out of this alive is if they can create turnovers and capitalize off of them, because they create them, but they don't capitalize. The amount of points they've left on the board is astronomical this year. So they have to be able to create the turnovers, capitalize off of those turnovers. They have to be able to condense the clock themselves on offense. I know Dino wants to go fast, but I just want him to get in the end zone. I mean, that's the reality of it all. Dino should just want to score. If it takes him 10 minutes, if it takes him 31 seconds, you want to be able to do that. You have to be able to, if you're not going to stop the run, you got to be able to slow it down better than you have. This defense has to show improve on that. The quarterback situation has to get better for Syracuse. So there's a lot of things that go into this, right? It's moving the ball, it's creating the turnovers, it's capitalizing off of those turnovers, it's condensing the clock, it's having an answer for the run. It's all the things Syracuse has not done this season. And if they continue to not do it, they're going to lose. If they can show improve, then maybe they lose or maybe it's close. Maybe they pull off a victory somewhere, but I don't see them getting anywhere if they don't capitalize off of turnovers and if they don't make sure that they take care of the clock, hold on to the ball, create first downs, and get out of that third down disgusting situation that they've been in this season, where I think the best they've ever been is 31%. So you got to get better than that. I mean, the writing's on the wall. I know it sounds like, okay, Dan, boom, 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 but these are the things that they haven't done all year. And unless they have an answer for it in this game, it doesn't matter what NC State does. It matters what Syracuse does. They can't control what NC State does. They have to have a response to it. And Syracuse has not had a response in a long time to the run and getting in the end zone and capitalizing off of turnovers, and they're going to have to do that if they want to win this game or even have a fighting chance. They have to do the things they haven't done.
Yeah, I agree. And but the thing is, that's not going to happen. Like the expectation that all of a sudden, like things are just the quarterback is going to all of a sudden just throw for 400 yards. Defensive lines, all of a sudden maintain their gaps. Like these things just don't happen, for a week in football. It's rare, at least, right? So, but this is why I say, when you know that though, when you know, okay, we're probably not going to get 250 yards out of our quarter. We're probably not going to get amazing gameplay out of our defensive line and front seven, right? Like when you know these things, as a coach, that's when your scheme has to work. Coach Shape a bunch of years back told me, when you're playing really well, when the least athletic guys are getting it, when you can take ability out of the game plan and out of the equation to whether or not you win or lose, and it's just your scheme. No matter, like when you're just game playing it up and this is how we're going to do it, this is going to work, boom, 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 we're winning. When especially if you're Syracuse, you got a bunch of young guys who really aren't ready to play. That's why I say your scheme has to be in tip-top shape every week. And obviously it's not for Syracuse. Things go wrong. But that's why I say when you see a Liberty and they're able to hold a team that typically scores so often, Liberty isn't more athletic than NC State. They don't have better players across the board. If you lined up NC State and you lined up Liberty, NC State would win the race in almost every position category. I argue, right? So when you know that, you say, that's why it's an excellent opportunity to, as a team, say this is what Liberty did. Because, despite losing, like Liberty's playing really well because Hugh Freeze has been playing well. It's not because they're the most athletic guys on the team. These are a bunch of 2-star recruits, right? So when you see that, you say, okay, the athletic part is being taken out of it for Liberty, but they're still successful because they do these things. And that's where I say I hope Syracuse, in game planning for NC State, they try to do the same thing, because you're not going to get just a Herculean performance from your players. You already know what they are. They're not doing that. They're not going to all of a sudden just be great. But you can all of a sudden put in these 3 new blitz packages that have been successful, and these 3 new coverages that have been successful. And that can help you, stay in the game and stay a little bit longer, and stay around a little bit longer. So that's my hope this week for Syracuse. And you can, and while we haven't seen it, that's what leads me with coaching. Maybe a bit of a problem as well, because, games don't ever seem to be close where the scheme is just working. So that's just for fans. Like, that's an indication. Like, if you see a team that's been struggling for a long time, and they're not good just across, like, the talent's not there, but the games aren't close, that's an indication that your coaching is not there either, because typically you should be able to scheme a game or two where you keep your guys in it despite not having the same talent. That's how Liberty's always, been playing really well so far, and that's how smaller, like, MAC teams stay around, because coaching's good. That's how coaches move up, obviously, right? But to the point, you're just hoping to see this team kind of scheme something up to stay in the game, and if that happens, the coaching is great that week. But it's one of those years, man, where it just nothing seems to be coming together.
And you said it well. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to it, going, yeah. I mean, that's the assessment, like you said, when a team is struggling and they're not playing well and things aren't going well, it comes down to coaching and scheming and ad-libbing, right? You get hungry, you get excited. You don't just kind of pack it in and go, man, I hired the wrong guy. Man, I got the wrong plan. Man, I got the wrong scheme. If I did that on my shows, if I was like, man, I had a tough Monday show, I didn't prepare for any of this, well, guess I'm going to do it till Friday. I mean, that doesn't make any logical sense by any stretch of the imagination, So, I mean, it's the notion of, if you see a leak in the ship, you don't go, well, that sucks, and then there's another one and another one. I mean, the ship's going to sink. So that's not how we do it here at Wake Up Call. I hope that that's not how they do it on the Hill at Syracuse. We have our games to pick really quick here, Mr. Whigham, so let's do that. And so a lot of games being played this Friday. Ton of games being played on Saturday, which is fantastic. And only 3 games canceled or postponed this week besides the 647 of last week. So Minnesota at Wisconsin, Tulsa at Houston, and Louisiana Tech at Florida International. We'll see if Florida State wants to play this week. Apparently, they didn't want to go up against Clemson. Hey, you know what? I think we got some Rona. And they're like, no, you ain't got no Rona. And it's like, no, I think we got some Rona. Yeah, and then like you got coaches in the back going, you know what I mean? And they're like, what are the symptoms? It's like, oh, my arm hurts. Well, that's not a symptom. Oh, I meant my throat. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like when I had to run the mile at school, which is hilarious because now I do 5 miles a day about. But it's kind of like when you have to run the mile at school, and I was like, Mom, I got a fever, and she's like, you feel fine, and I'm like putting hot water on my face and trying to make myself sneeze and stuff. Clemson's like, Florida State's like, oh, who's on the schedule? Clemson. I think everybody got sick this morning. We just tested you all 5 minutes ago. Yeah, man, something weird happened in the last 5 minutes. It was like a ghost. Sam Darnold's ghost came in, injected everybody. We don't feel good. So, yeah, hopefully Florida State's going to figure something out and maybe play some foosball this week. We'll see. But I got to ask you about a couple of these games, Julian, and it's nuts. By the way, I did back pedals yesterday because I was jogging at night, and I did my back pedals. And every time, and when I turn around and I started to do my back pedals, I'm like, man, I want Julian to be here right now. Like, I want that, right? I don't care who wins. I just want to back pedal with my guy over there. So, and then FSU would be like, yo, Julian and Dan, we're back pedaling. I think they passed on the Rona. They'd be like, that's what they're gonna say because you're down in Florida, Julian. You start doing back pedals, they're gonna be like, I heard back pedals lead to Corona. I do. I heard that. So
yeah, I don't know what Florida State was doing. That was hilarious. But yeah, man, we gotta get those hamstrings right, man, and get those steps in, those back pedals down.
Yeah, we definitely gotta get those down, and we got a better chance of playing Clemson this year than Florida State does. So my buddy loves Florida State, but that was treacherous. North Carolina is ranked again, folks. For those of you that did not know, they're 19. And Notre Dame is 2. Any shots that North Carolina does anything to Notre Dame this Friday?
I think this is actually a really good upset matchup for UNC. They're at home. I think they have a talented football team. Notre Dame on the road this week. And that's the thing with I like Notre Dame. I still think that they're going to go ahead and run the table until they have to play Clemson again. But yeah, I would say this is upset alert. For Notre Dame, just being on the road on a Friday. I think it's at a weird time too. It's during the day.
It's at 3:30. Yeah.
It's just you're up early. I think it's really well set up for an upset for UNC, but I'm not comfortable taking. I'm going to go with Notre Dame this week,
Yeah.
but I will say this is definitely a definite upset alert for Notre Dame this week.
Yeah, Black Friday special. And this is usually the end of the regular season, folks, mind you. This is like when Syracuse was playing Temple and whatnot. And it was like, well, who's going to show up to the game? You know, it was Black Friday sales. But now that they've had Black Friday going on all month long, and by the way, shout out to the fact that there's one Target, and I'm not telling anybody where it is in Central New York because it's my Target, but there's one Target that when I can't find something that I want or I can't find it in my size, they've done a fantastic job at having 100% completion percentage, that if I can't find it anywhere else, I find it at this Target. So shout out to that Target and my early Black Friday shopping. Yes, I bought something for myself, Julian, and no, I don't feel bad about it. But I was like, man, I wish they had it in my size. And I was like, I'm going to go across town and see about my spot, like my Target. And they had it. So, you know, if somebody's very close to me and you want me to help you get your Target on, I can. I'm just not publicly saying which Target because I don't want everybody shopping taking all my stuff, Julian. I don't want they already take my toilet paper and peanut butter. I don't want them taking my stuff no more. So
listen, the smart decision is often the selfish one, Dan. So I'm not mad at it at all.
So I was just like, man, what are these people doing? Like, do they know that diarrhea isn't a main component of Rona? It's not the top one. You know what I mean? It's like, why is toilet paper are you eating it? Like, I mean, I just want to know. But, you know, Florida State's out there eating toilet paper going, yo, this is the only way we're going to get better. Keep eating toilet paper, they'll leave us alone. See Mike Norvell eating toilet paper and them going, oh, he got the Rona. But I'm going to go with Notre Dame, too. And I think this is an upset alert possibility. Mike Norvell, you know that I love you, but I got to have fun with this morning. So Notre Dame, I'm going with them, but I do think it's upset alert. I do agree with you, Julian, on this. Indiana pushed Ohio State as far as they could in a game that they lost 42-35. What a fantastic, I guess, please understand me how I say this, folks. If you're going to lose anyway to Ohio State, what a way to lose. Indiana should be ranked in the top 10 still. I don't know how they drop, but they dropped a couple spots. They're playing Maryland at home. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so I think Indiana bounced back. I think they played really, really well against Ohio State. You know, my reason for the pick last week was thinking, Justin Fields is going to be the guy. But I think they did a great job I think they slowed them down early on. I think that kept them around. And they just played well on offense. You know, I think they were down like 14 at one point. They battled back. So, they're a good football team, much better than I expected them to be. I mean, they've really come along, and I expect their winning streak to get back on track this week against Maryland. I don't see Maryland as a great team. I don't think Maryland. Where has Maryland? I feel like they haven't played very much this year. But anyway, I like Indiana this week. I think they're a better team. I'm going with Indiana.
The thought, I still can't shake it out of my head, the thought of like the Florida State staff putting toilet paper in their mouth, eating it, and somebody captioning the meme putting, he got the Rona. I feel like I got to put it out there now, Julian. I feel it. I got like the itch about it now. But, what did they call it? I got the itis. But, so LSU is unranked. They won a national championship. Remember that, guys? But they don't have Joe Burrow anymore. And Leonard Fournette, I saw one of his runs this past week where there was a giant hole and he ran at the giant pile of people. So, for a guy who left Jacksonville pretty unceremoniously, I can't tell you that I don't feel his pain, is what I'm saying. But he's not there anymore, and he was really good when he was at LSU. So is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and so is Joe Burrow. They don't have any of that right now. LSU is trying to figure things out. Texas A&M's ranked in the nation's top 5. They're one step out of being in the college football playoff, believe it or not, with Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo. I love Jimbo Fisher. I am such a big fan of Jimbo Fisher, and I tell you, that Jameis Winston, he is one hell of a player. I love hearing him speak. So I got to ask you this, Julian. LSU, any upset alert for Texas A&M? And could Texas A&M be a college football playoff team?
One, I don't believe in LSU. I really don't understand how you fall off so much, following a national championship. I mean, typically the answer is like the coaches, a bunch of assistants leave, you're trying to bring in a bunch of new guys, sometimes the scheme changes a little bit, you lose a bunch of talented players, which and I guess in some ways that happened to LSU, but I don't think that they didn't lose many assistants. They kept a good number of their offense guys. Most of their defense coordinators or assistants stayed. They only lost Joe Burrow, a receiver, and then a few guys in the drafts. I didn't expect them to fall off this much, right? And so I think there's something else going on inside the program. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe they got paid too well, and now the players are unmotivated. I don't know. But on the other side of that, Texas A&M has just been lights out. They're a really good football team. I don't know what Jimbo has done to get this program back to a point where they're right outside the college football playoff, and they have an opportunity. It's going to be there. I think right now the projection is both Clemson and Notre Dame right now in the playoff, and that's not going to happen because they have to play each other again, right? So there's an opportunity. There's going to be an opportunity for them. It's just a matter of taking it one game at a time, and we're right at the end of the season. So that would be really crazy to see, right? But I just feel like they're going to get snubbed. It's just the way the playoff is. I feel like they're going to get snubbed. They just seem like a snubbable team, if that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, but I like A&M this week, and yeah, they're gonna be around the bubble. But when things start to settle, we really get this college football playoff thing. A&M just strikes me as a team that gets snubbed in some form or fashion for the playoff. They just don't have that sexy football appeal yet, I think, versus some of those other Big Ten or SEC football teams.
That's funny that you say that they seem like a snubbable team, because I agree. I really do. I don't think they should be, but it feels like they're going to get snubbed this year. Like, I can usually smell it out pretty well, and I'm like, yeah, I can smell. I think the Aggies are going to be a snubbable team this year, and that stinks. I mean, they'll be obviously a top. I just hope they keep winning, keep doing their thing, and make it interesting. I love when the college football playoff committee has to sweat a little bit, because we know they have a spot for Alabama, we know they have a spot for Clemson, we know they have a spot for another SEC team, and then the other one's a wild card. So figure it out. I like when we make it interesting. I want teams to go undefeated and then stare at them like Dino stared at the screen about Andre Sisco. That's what I want. So, with that being said, it's like the best shade that he's ever thrown in 5 years. It was so awesome. I'm like, get him, Dino. So, but NC State at Syracuse, final one we're going to do. What do you have for this?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead with NC State this week. We talked about what Syracuse would need to do to keep themselves engaged, and it's going to have to be superior game planning. It's going to have to be finding ways to get your quarterback outside of the pocket. You got to protect him. You got to keep him, upright. And we just haven't seen these things. It seems like this staff, particularly on offense, is just like, we're going to do this the way that this is how we're going to do it. We're going to get it right. And maybe that's the approach because your players truly aren't playing well, and that's just, and it's a great scheme. I don't know. But, it's just the inability to change and do some other things is what I think is hurting Syracuse at this point. And I think NC State takes advantage of that and goes ahead and wins this game by a pretty large margin.
Yeah, I got NC State putting up 40 in this one, so I definitely think they're going to get the victory in this, and it's unfortunate to see the Dome open with a win but close with a loss. I hope it doesn't happen for Syracuse, but, everything, all signs point to it. Just like I made the warning about Louisville, and apparently you listen to me and other people listen, but Syracuse didn't heed the warning of every other year you go on the road. I mean, the coaches are different, the player personnel is different, and you lose the same way. I mean, it's just, and it got worse this year somehow. So, you never want to trend downward, and I got to go with NC State in this game. Mind you, folks, Louisville was 2-6 when they played Syracuse, and Syracuse was 1-7. We're not talking about this 7-win Louisville team that shut out Syracuse. We're talking about a team that had one more win than they did and has been trying to figure out themselves as well. Yet they could. That's the thing that hurts, is when a team can't figure out themselves, but against you, they look like they're freaking Rhodes Scholars. I mean, like, that's the issue. A team that can't put a sentence together, but then they're a Rhodes Scholar when they face you. A team that can't hit a three-point shot to save their life, but then they go 70% against you. That's not the team that you want to be. So I'm going to go with NC State in this one, and I will be at the game hoping for the best as we move forward. With that being said, Mr. Whigham, happy Turkey Day, happy Thanksgiving, happy, life and all the good stuff. I hope that all the decisions coming up that you make, that God guides you. I hope you make the best ones. I hope that your next chapter is your best chapter yet, and you know that I'll always be keeping in touch with you.
Dan, I appreciate that, man. And happy Thanksgiving to you as well, man. I hope happy Turkey Day. I hope things with the family go well, and I'll catch you next week.
Yeah, man, it sounds good. We got to take them pictures with the toilet paper. We got eating that Rona. I don't know what they're doing here in Wegmans. What are they doing? If I was at Wegmans, I'd be tasing people that are taking toilet paper out right now. I would. If somebody had like two, I'll be counting rolls, being like, "Ma'am, I said 10, not 11." You know what I mean? Like, you should be able to tase people that take 100 rolls of toilet paper. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I don't think anybody's going to fight me on it. I'm not saying tase somebody that takes 4 rolls. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you are taking all the tissues, what are you doing with them? What are you stuffing? Like, are you making a turkey out of tissue? Like, I don't understand and I don't get it, and that's okay. And shout out to you though. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy it with your loved ones. And man, I'm making the bird for the 7th year in a row. So you get your butt up here. I'll save you a little slice. I'll save you some turkey.
Oh man, I appreciate that, dude. I'll make sure to bring my famous mac and cheese. We'll make it work.
Dude, you said mac and cheese. I didn't hear anything after that. I'm game. So, I almost went cross-eyed on the show just now, but it's all good. But I'll look forward to talking with you soon, brother. Okay.
All right, Ted. I'll catch you later.
All right, take care. That coming from Julian Whigham here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, having some fun this morning as we always do. We're going to end this video on Facebook and get set to have a new video here with you momentarily. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to end this video, start a new one so that you can get into that fantasy football feel on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So we'll get that started for you. So for those of you on Facebook, stay with us. Just know that we'll be in a new video.